Yeah. Okay, so what was last week's opening line?
Why would I remember? I mean, I know I watched the thing yesterday, but I don't remember.
Yeah, you literally just edited it.
Yeah, no, I
Whatever.
don't remember. I think you just say welcome to this thing called
Yeah.
Super Thursday. I think.
Well, yeah, welcome everybody to the Super Sunday. This is the second installment, let's say, of the book club we're doing on the Positive Media Psychology book, Introduction to Positive Media Psychology.
I have noticed you're speaking just like John Green.
Like John Green,
Yeah,
the Hank Green's brother, John Green.
yeah. He's the one doing the podcast, right? Or I'm going insane.
Oh yeah, no way, no, I don't.
No, I mean,
I
I feel like you tried to at least.
No, do you know that meme that's like a guy that's only seen Boss Baby in his life? I'm getting some real strong Boss Baby vibes from this movie.
All right,
Let's see.
yeah. I get your point now.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I mean, I've seen little to no podcasts in my life. I think Trash Taste and the Anthropocene review are the only ones I've seen.
Oh, Anthropocene's so good. Trash Taste is pretty good. Remember the episode with Nile Red? That was really fucking fun. Anyways, this is not a podcast review podcast. This is a book club.
This is a book club, and I realized we didn't introduce ourselves in last chapter, so let's do a quick introduction. Who we are and why why we matter. We don't, but
you go first.
all right, I go first. Well, hi, my name is Nicolas Kemp, also known as Nicolas Kemp, and and this is my second channel, Kempovich. I'm a psychologist and therapist, right now doing a lot of research in media psychology, and that's what I usually talk about in my main channel, Nicolas Kemp. So yeah, that's kind of my thing.
And hello, I am Javier. I am Nico's friend who he dragged into this because he wants to spend quality time with me or something. Actually, this was my idea, so I don't know why I'm making that up. I'm just spreading misinformation. I'm a programming student, literally just about to graduate. But yeah, I have an interest in psychology. A little bit, not a lot. Like Nico would know, I know barely anything, but it is interesting to me. Like most things, I guess. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, one of the things I like about psychology is how easy it is to learn when you don't go like really deep into psychoanalysis. But if you don't go that route, it is really easy to understand and learn.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, the book's been pretty easy so far, at least.
yes, absolutely. This is an easy book.
Yeah.
So
would recommend.
Yeah, last chapter I write the title of the video, a developer and a psychologist talk about psychology. So I think that's kind of the vibe. I don't know, that's really not the vibe, but let's go with it.
Yeah, sure.
So now you have to compare every psychology concept to Python, please.
To Python. Okay, I'll try my best, or to cryptocurrency or the metaverse. My favorite two concepts.
Absolutely.
I love when rich people scam vulnerable people out of money. That's my favorite thing.
I'm sorry,
Anyways.
I'm dying. That's another thing of this podcast.
A developer and a dying man talk about psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Nico, how does it feel to have 10 days left on this planet? Okay.
I'm sorry. So second chapter.
The second chapter. The first chapter we'll be discussing today talks about. It overviews, like, this is a book about positive media psychology. So it's combining two areas of psychology, which are positive psychology, the psychology about things that do us good, as opposed to the things that harm us, right? And media psychology, which is the psychology of media. And so these two chapters are going to introduce us first to media psychology and then to positive media psychology, just so we get an overview of both areas before we combine them, right?
Right. So, no, Oh no, yeah, you're right. This chapter is about media psychology. I don't think there's a chapter about positive. Oh no, yeah, it is.
I just read this today, Nico.
I'm sorry. All right, I literally I went through my notes and I said I don't think I read the next chapter. Oh, all right. No, yeah, you are absolutely right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these are the two chapters we're going to talk about. The first one is about media psychology.
I was just lying to you when I introduced the two chapters. I was just lying for the fun of it. So they introduced the media psychology is very, like, basically they say it's very old. We used to study mostly bad things. But now we also study good things. And they divided it into three aspects of media psychology study, which are media effects, so the effects media has on us, media processes, which are the processes that are actively relating to media with motivation, attention, learning, etc. And media literacy, which I was surprised to see was part of media psychology. I would have thought media literacy was a literature skill, right? Like reading comprehension, not necessarily a psychological aspect of media consumption, right?
Well, I mean, I guess one of the main points it's there's so much things that go into processing anything. So I guess we have to get into what it means to understand media as a whole. If we want to get into understanding how we understand media, that's kind of the thing when we study us, is that we got to study how we understand us. And that's kind of a thing with everything, then with every sub-subject of psychology.
This book loves saying, so this thing is composed out of these three aspects, or these five aspects, and they'll just list them and define them, and it's very interesting. They do that a ton, and I know, it makes sense for these chapters since they're just listing key theories and concepts, but it's like, and this is composed out of these three things, and each one of these is composed out of these three things. And they just go dividing everything into categories, which is very interesting, and I have a question about that, but that'll come up later.
All right.
And it lays out the assumptions of the field also. Sorry, you were gonna say something.
No, I was going to ask you if you want to start explaining those concepts.
Yeah, okay. So, media effects are the effects they have on us, right? Both the technology, like the immersion VR can provide, but also mostly the effects of the content of the media, be them cognitive, so on how we think, emotional, which is obvious, or behavioral, which is on how we act. And we'll get into that later, but I do find it interesting that they know that media does have behavioral effects, which is obvious if you think about it, right? Like when you read a cooking book of recipes, you might be more likely to try the recipes in the book, which is a change in your behavior. But I feel like in the dialogue of how video games can or can't make you violent, which is something that I want to discuss today, but not yet, some people refuse that media has any effect on our behavior, and yet it clearly does, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's kind of the thing with this kind of... with these complex topics like this. People just want to assume there's a really cutting-edge answer, like yes or no.
Yeah, like a really clear answer, right? Like a clear separation between what it does and what it doesn't.
Yes.
And I would say that the video game, just like the people who say video games do make you violent, are reactionary and are reacting to this new technology, right? A lot of people who say they don't are also reactionary insofar as, like, they are not looking at it externally and neutrally, but they are trying to disprove what the people who think they do make you violent believe. And so they can push it a little bit too far, even though they're more right than the people who say they do make you violent, right? Which is just a mass hysteria sort of vibe, right? Like book burning vibes for me. But yeah, it's interesting to see where it can affect your behavior, which is interesting. And yeah, there's also apart from media effects, there's media processes, which are the terms in relation to how we use the processes through which we use media, right? Like the motivation to get media, how much attention we pay, etc. The emotions it elicits in us. And they do say that both processes are very interlinked, right? The processes and the media processes and the media effects are linked together, because the effect a show has on you, for example, you liking it, can change how you select the next show you watch, which is a process, right? So they're deeply intertwined and are typically discussed together. And finally, huh?
No, you left like a gap, so I thought, do I have to say something now?
I was allowing you to say something.
No, I don't.
And there's also media literacy, which they don't actually define too well.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I remember reading about effects and processes, but I was just checking the book to see what do they say about media literacy, because I don't remember.
I guess they'll get into it later, but my part of what I understand is understanding it's not media. It might maybe not be media literacy how we normally think of it, as in understanding the themes of a show. But it might be more like understanding where the media comes from, what the effects it might have on you are, how you can pick media to get the effects you want.
I guess.
Because it mentions understanding, I'm quoting, understanding how to combat, overcome, and treat potential negative effects of media, and how to harness, value, and strategically utilize media technology and content for the sake of well-being. So that doesn't sound like my concept of media literacy. My concept of media literacy is watching American Psycho and getting You're Not Supposed to Like Bateman. Right?
Well, actually, in the first chapter, and I quote, it says, "A goal of media psychology in general is media literacy, or education and training in the evaluation, analysis, interpretation, criticism, and creation of media content and technologies." So
I wonder why they consider it so. Maybe media literacy is helpful in achieving eugenic. What was the word? Pleasure.
I mean,
eudaimonic pleasure from media.
Eudaimonic pleasure.
Eudaimonic. Thank you. Which is to say, pleasure that is not immediate, but longer term fulfillment.
I mean, yeah, I guess one of the things that gets talked about in the next chapter that I don't want to get too much into is that both hedonic and eudaimonic pleasure are needed. So, of course, I, as an individual, prefer to seek eudaimonic experiences. But I don't think this book is kind of trying to turn us into that perspective. So I don't think it's like that. I think it's more about understanding the facts.
Yeah.
And that I'm trying to search
Perhaps.
to seek for the right words to express myself here. I do feel that this media literacy this book talks about is more about understanding ourselves in relation to media, and that means also understanding media, both the message of the media, but also understanding ourselves in how we react to media, how we understand media, how we relate to media. And if a way to feel better might be to understand better how you do in social situations, right? Where you feel comfortable, where you don't, so you can put yourself in things that fulfill you. And in the same way, media literacy might be this knowledge to know what effect certain types of media have on you, so you can use them in a positive way more. Something like that? Yeah, I think it's kind of something like that.
Yeah.
I am not sure though. I think the last chapter, which I haven't read, I'm sorry, does get more into the media literacy aspect of positive media psychology. So maybe in a future episode of this podcast we will get more deeply into it. Is it more deeply or deeplier?
Deeper. I would just say deeper.
Or deeperly?
No, we're just gonna get deeper into it.
Or deepersly?
No, it's more deep. It's more deeply. If you really wanna use the adverb, it's more deeply.
So it's more deeperly.
No.
More deeplier.
No. More deeply.
Morely deeply. All right.
Morely deeply.
All right.
So one of the assumptions is the media audiences are active. You know, they say assumptions. Of course, they have studied that this is true, right? In other, like, as in priors, right? Like, it's prior to media psychology. But anyways, yeah, audiences are active. Even if you're chilling with media, consuming media is very active because you're actively listening, paying attention, using your memory to recall the plot and the setting and the character progressions, etc. So you're very actively processing, right? And if you were like a constructivist, and this reminded me of it, they make a point that how you perceive media is very selective. Like, you select the information from the message to process, right? You don't process the whole thing, but you select which part of it to process, which, yeah, I guess it's just how biases work. We always build new information, or try to build new information on top of our old assumptions, if we can at all make it fit, and if we can't, we suffer cognitive dissonance, right?
There's this neuropsychologist called Mark Solms, who in his book says that our brain tries always not to process, but to predict. So most of the time, instead of, and this is related to this topic, most of the time, instead of processing what we have, we use our what we see or what we sense. We use our own knowledge, normally the semantic knowledge, to try to fill all the gaps, and we just focus on one thing that could be of interest to us, and that isn't already in our cognitive structure. So we do tend to focus on one thing that isn't in our cognitive structure, if we can find one. Yes. So one of the things that Piaget, which is one of the biggest the biggest names in constructivism. Yeah, biggest name in constructivism. Talked about was the cognitive scheme or cognitive structure, which was this scheme, this building, if you want to say, this map of related concepts that goes around building an understanding of the world. Yeah. And one of the things he says is that it isn't easy to change this. And normally, when you learn something that doesn't apply, you have to restructure everything. So, I guess you can imagine it is really easier to restructure one thing at a time than a lot of things at a time. This is why we have something called cognitive dissonance, and that is when you see something that deeply disagrees with what you think of the world, you immediately disregard it, and normally you don't want to hear it. That's why these echo chambers are a thing. Yeah. Because it's really hard for us to restructure our whole view of the world We have to do it one bit at a time. And this is also true when we process media. We normally take things that are already set, or that can already be set into our cognitive schemes, so we can process it better and we can integrate it into what we understand of the world.
You mean like with genre? Like, it reminds me of how movies will often have like be in an existing genre to like, so you don't have to think as hard about it, but have one different thing. And if they're establishing an entirely new genre, they have to do a ton of work to establish it that later works can just save themselves.
I mean, I do think that's a higher level that
this is an example of what you're saying, not what you're saying. What you're saying applies in more levels, yeah.
All right, but what if you are speaking of this as an analogy? Yeah, it's kind of like that. When we want to establish a new genre in the popular culture, we have to go bit by bit until something is known as a new genre, or you have to make the jump and fail a lot of times until people go bit by bit trying to consume and to understand or to integrate this new genre into their cognitive schemes.
Very interesting. And like selectivity I think is very interesting. Like, I think you haven't seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, right?
No, I have. It is a very good movie.
Right. So I have a friend who is Chinese American, right? Which is the ethnicity in the movie, and who's also queer, and his mom is not very accepting of that, right? And so they watched the movie together, and it was very moving for my friend, who, saw it as something they would want to happen. Because the movie, for those that haven't seen it, is fundamentally about somewhat conservative and stuck in her ways Chinese immigrant to America, learning to accept the quirks of her family, and in particular the fact that her daughter is a lesbian, right?
Yes.
And so anyway, that's the point of the movie. But my friend's mom, she saw the movie, and her takeaway was that the daughter had learned to be nicer to her mom, and that's why they could get along now. Which is an insane...
something that happened also to a friend of mine, which I was going to...
That's an insane fucking reading of that movie.
When they saw the movie, the mother of this girl I know was all the time talking about how poorly treated the mother was, and she was saying "pobrecita," which I don't know who to translate.
Poor girl.
Poor girl. But talking about the mother. So she is suffering a lot, but a lot of that is self-inflicted. Yeah, that's kind of the thing about relationships that people still can't understand. Relationships are built with two people, with two persons.
Yeah.
You need as one person and a second person to build a relationship, which is what's in the middle. So it seems to me kind of wild that when you see a movie about relationships, and especially one as complicated as it is motherhood, you think that the movie makes you think the message is only one person on this relationship should change.
Yeah.
So to be fair, is happier.
Yeah. To be fair, I think the daughter also needs to change a little in the movie. Not nearly as much as...
That's the message.
Yeah.
The movie talks about how the daughter has to understand how deeply hard it is for the mother who has, in a way, abandoned everything to start a new life, to keep changing. And that's hard. and that's one of the things, one of the topics of the movie. Changing is hard. The fact that you see so many dimensions and stuff is one of the things that makes it so weird, but also so enchanting, that that when you see so much change, the change that was initially hard does not seem such a big deal, but it is. Which doesn't mean that the mother should not change. It means that change needs time.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, with anyone who's been, like, let's say LGBT phobic broadly, that I for some reason or another have had to try to turn around, be it people in my family or etc. It's always taken time, and it's taken patience. And I do think there is a point here that, of course, having the patience and time and emotional space, emotional energy to get through that is something that you don't necessarily have to do, or maybe you just do not have the privilege to do. And I feel like gay people or LGBT people broadly are like often expected to be endlessly patient with everyone and just explain it. And I will agree that being patient with people and explaining is very helpful for the people to be more accepting, but it is also an unreasonable expectation for LGBT people. So, just want to mention that because I know this is like a contentious thing, but yeah, being patient with people, if you have the energy and if there's someone you care about, is very helpful.
Yeah, and even if you're not, I mean, it's the same thing. The thing is, both sides need to change, but obviously, if one side doesn't, it isn't your fault.
Yeah. Anyways, all of which is to say that media processing is active.
Is active, which it is really interesting to me, because I always, I guess, in my ignorance, one of the things I've been doing while reading this book is contrast what I was thinking of about media psychology and what this book tells. Yeah. And seeing how, and I don't want to say wrong, but wrong I was about how I was trying to understand the media process, because I was thinking about this chilling as passive, and I was thinking that the active processes were talking about media. The active processes were, I don't know.
No, I definitely agree with you.
On taking something about the media.
I also perceived media consumption as very passive, but
yes.
I mean, yeah, even reading Twitter and TikTok, it is an active effort. You need to be actively remembering memes and so on, and processing the words on the screen and the video and making connections in your brain. So yeah,
of course. I mean, there are levels in the. At the
of course. Yeah, there are levels of how actively you're consuming, but it is always active, which is interesting. I didn't think that. But I think my definition of passive is different. That, like, the definition I was using when I thought some media consumption was passive is different than the one they're using.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's interesting to challenge to keep an open mind and challenge your assumptions. Media audiences are complex, would be the second thing that they mention as an assumption, which is kind of trivial, but people used to think that media consumption wasn't complex, so that people are just one big blob that is affected universally and uniformly by media, particularly when there used to be less media, and so the people who control what are on the 4 TV channels used to have a lot more power. But yeah, I mean, I think nowadays it's pretty common to think that how you consume media will depend on who you are, what you've experienced, and also things like how old you are, your personality, your gender, your religion, your political orientation, your interests, etc. It doesn't affect people universally, definitely.
Yesterday, I saw the how do you call this? The wholesome direct, was it? Right?
No clue.
The Wholesome Direct, I think. That's this video game presentation that we were supposed to watch together. I watched it afterwards.
I see.
And one of the things I realized is that I didn't knew any of these big content creators, mostly streamers, that were in this presentation. So there were a lot of people that I haven't even heard about, and one of the things that impressed me the most that was, for example, there was this I don't know if saying black girl is a bad thing.
No, it's okay to say a black girl.
All right, I'm sorry, I'm not up to date with morals of the English speaking.
Yeah, I will just qualify because it seems a little weird. The way you can speak about a black person with it being appropriate in Spanish does not translate over well to English if you translate it word by word.
Absolutely. I mean, in Spanish it is not well seen to just say black girl or black. We usually use euphemism, which you can think is right or wrong. You are in your right, but that's how culture works here. So
yeah,
there was this black girl, and when watching her speak, when watching her talk about what her channel was about, I realized I've just never seen, like myself, a black girl content creator. Not like I didn't knew they existed, and sometimes some content appeared in my feed, but I have never actually followed a creator of these things, and probably that speaks to my culture, that speaks to a lot of the things that define me, and that are part of this active process of selection, where I see a black girl, and I think this doesn't speak to me. Maybe it should. I don't know. This is something that someone has got to think about.
I mean, my boyfriend has pointed out on quite a few occasions that I almost exclusively watch men on YouTube. It's not 100% men, but it is vastly overwhelmingly men, which is a little embarrassing. But yeah, it is yet another way in which we are biased, you know?
Fuck. I think I only see men.
Yeah, right? Right. Isn't it crazy how you can just not notice?
It is absolutely crazy. I mean, I used to watch some girls, but they were VTubers, so I think I can make the men were the fucking target of that.
Yeah. No, yeah. Like, you know, there's fucking, like... Did you know makeup YouTube is fucking humongous? Of course it is. Of course it's humongous. And you know...
If my girlfriend watches a lot of...
Yeah.
The other time when I went visit my girlfriend, she put this video about a black girl teaching makeup. And because my girlfriend is black, she likes to sew, because she said, well, it is one of the only YouTubers I found that actually makes makeup I like for my skin.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I really didn't want to watch it.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't think he would have interest in a makeup video.
Yeah.
But it definitely speaks as to how we perceive things differently. I think, like, I watch almost exclusively men. There are a few, like... Some of the women I watch the most are trans women who are programmers. So that makes sense. And... But I do watch... I do watch... Hannah Fry's pretty good. And in media analysis, let me get her name right. I forgot. Rowan Ellis and and Munecat are pretty good. I also like them. But yeah, it is well, and I think it is sort of a disservice in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one girl YouTuber that it's pretty
Jenny Nicholson
small.
I also watch.
She's a streamer, I think, but she also does. She does the exact same kind of content that Rangu Gamer does, which is
Really?
long plays, which I've taken an interest on, but never really watched.
Yeah. Oh Jesus! I was looking at my recommendations, right, to try to find some channels made by a woman, and after I searched for Rowan Ellis, now I'm getting woman in my recommendations. That's wild. Suddenly, yeah, like Jenny, I'm remembering it. I do watch Jenny Nicholson. I do watch Angela Collier. By the way, shout out to Angela Collier. She's so good. She makes videos on physicists that are not entry level. She expects you to know at least a little bit of math and physics already, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that's not for me. I think I can make 2 + 2, which is kind of 5, I think. But more
you're only 25% off. That's not bad. I've seen worse. Anyways.
No, wait, that's not 25. All right. Oh, no, yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
All right. So,
contrary to you, I do know how to do math in my head.
So, processes. This is media processes. This is one thing I have done a video on about in my channel, which is The Author is Dead, which is, I think, one of the best videos in my channel because it's the last one. So
that's how it works.
That's how it works. So I do think I liked how close I was to this with my interpretation of media processes. So I don't know if you can explain, because you have it more recent in your head. What are the media processes they talk about in this book?
Oh, Jesus. So I think there's cognitive processes and emotional processes. Yeah, cognitive, emotion, and behavior processes. This is something I wanted to point out. So when they say that there are cognitive processes, processes and effects of 3 broad categories: cognitions, emotions, and behaviors, they say. Is that meant to be exhaustive? As in, is it meant to say that all processes and effects can be categorized in cognitive, emotional, or behavioral? Or are they saying these are the 3 main ones, and the fact that most of them are clearly one of these 3 says something about how we think and how our brain works? Are they trying to be exhaustive, or are they trying to say the primary 3 categories that most of the things fit neatly into?
Let me ask you something. Can you think of anything we can do or feel or make that it isn't cognitive, emotional, or behavioral?
Yeah, I mean, but I could split them down further, right? I could break down behaviors into habits and actions, or I could just make behaviors part of cognition and emotions if I really wanted to, right?
Yeah.
So, my question is, how do they come to these 3 categories? If I was a psychologist inventing this field and, a pioneer, how would I come to the conclusion that there are 3 categories, exactly 3, and they are exactly cognition, emotion, and behavior?
Well, let me reveal you something about psychology. We don't know what the fuck are we talking about.
Okay, so they made it the fuck up. But
no, they didn't make it the fuck up. They ask other people to make it the fuck up, and they took the make it the fuck up of 1,000 people, and they say, yeah, they kinda make this the fuck up together. So how this kind of thing works, it's mostly, I don't know if this is the case, but in most cases when you are trying to categorize something that has to do with the experience of people, you ask a lot of people in a survey. All right, and just something like, what did this movie provoke, for example? And after seeing all the answers, they took all the answers and say, all right, in all these answers, how can we categorize? All right, these answers seem to be really not so, and they have like semantic maps mostly prior to these kind of things. They first they make a study about semantics so they can see how words relate to each other. Then they make the survey. Then they make a study that relates the semantic map to the survey, and they say, yeah, these people answer this, so these are the three effects. That's how this kind of categorizations are mostly made.
We explained semantic maps in the last episode, but basically they are clear definitions about what exactly each thing means and how to categorize any reaction between cognition, emotion, or behavior in a way that can be replicated.
Yes.
Very interesting. But yeah. And so cognitive is the effects that modify our beliefs and ideas and our reasons. Emotions are effects, well, the modifier involved, right? Emotions are effects that involve our emotional responses, and behaviors are that affect or involve our behaviors.
Now, to answer my question that you couldn't answer because you're one of the things I think this lacks, which of course it is not an effect, but I think it is very important in the process, is sensorial, the sensorial effect. Which I know it can be kind of non-important to see you saw.
Yeah,
you saw. But let's make this. You saw a 4DX movie and you got wet.
Yeah.
This is an immediate effect of a movie. So I do think sensorial here could be something.
Added.
Of course, I did not take part on all of these studies. Maybe they have a reason to not involve this. I don't know how we could achieve the same level of study on the sensorial effects. I don't know what could categorize as a sensorial effects. This is their hard...
Do you mean sensory or sensual?
Sensory.
Okay, sensory. Okay.
I was saying sensorial, which I guess it is...
I don't think that's a word.
Yeah, it is a Spanishism.
Yeah.
But
Spanishism? I don't know how you say that in English.
Me neither. So...
But yeah.
So yeah, this is one of the hard things about doing psychology. You have to make really, really an effort to start by defining well your words.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's the sense.
If your study is to be reproducible, your definitions need to be clear enough to be reproduced. It's interesting. I never considered that. Yeah. Another point that this chapter makes that I wanted to bring up is that our brains process media content as real. Right?
Yes,
this is something you've mentioned to me, and when you told me about it, I was like, okay, Nico, whatever you say, fucking crazy dude. But now that a book says it, I'm like, oh wow, this is actually real. He wasn't making it up.
Fuck you. I mean, why would you believe the fucking psychologist?
Listen, you're not a psychologist, you're my friend.
Not.
You're my good friend Nico.
Okay.
So I don't believe you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm kidding, I didn't believe you.
And that's one of the things that people have a really hard time understanding. And that's why in my video games might make you violent, I tried to make a really fucking big point on how important is fantasy for us. Because fantasy for us, it is a doing us.
Yeah.
And why do we do us? A doing us like. I do as you are my friend. You are not.
Yeah, as if I were your friend, you're gonna ask me something. What are you gonna ask?
No. That's it. I just act like it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you act like you're my friend. That's the fantasy?
Yeah, that's the fantasy. And when you do this, when you act as a fantasy, your brain does not recognize the difference. That's why when we talk about children's, we talk about what in Spanish we call magic thinking, because they cannot tell the difference between what is fantasy and what is reality. Their semantic, the semantic memory, their cognitive scheme is not big enough to make that difference. And you can say, well, mine is, but let me tell you this. Your cognitive brain might be good enough to make this difference, but your emotional part of the brain, which is the most basic one, the one you share with most mammals, it's the same.
Which is, I guess, why we can cry. Yeah,
that's right.
I think that's why we can cry when we watch a character die, right?
Yes.
Like, I think this has very much to do with our suspension of disbelief, which, like, even if you are, this has happened to me, even if I am cognitively disconnected from a show or a movie, right? They've ruined my suspension of disbelief. So cognitively, I'm disconnected. I will still feel the emotions, even if I feel the show is shit. If the show just shows the emotions, because my empathy still works.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the point with this brain reality dichotomy that people can't understand. There's a Mark Solms. How I love Mark Solms.
We might have to leave next chapter for next time.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Mark Solms makes the difference in the brain between the internal world and the external world, and that's something that is really important, because for your brain there's no such thing as fantasy and reality. Your brain can only say this is internal world, that means your body and your brain, and this is external. And if he sees in a fucking screen someone crying, your brain won't say that's a screen. Your brain will say that's the external world.
Yeah, that's insane. So, something regarding the video games thing. Like, the book goes on to talk about how we form memory. So it says that memory is represented in nodes, right? Like, you might have an animal node, a beach node, and nodes, as you walk, your brain sort of pre-activates them so that you can think about them and recall the information if you need to. Say if you're going through a park and you hear a dog's bark, you might load your information on a dog and have it ready, even if you don't immediately use it. But just in case, say, the dog jumps at you, you'll be able to quickly load how you're supposed to handle that, right?
Yes.
It prepares you to think about things. And the more you think about things, the more easily they become accessible, to the point where some nodes might be always accessible to you, might always be ready to switch on. And also, the connection between nodes gets stronger the more, like, you loading up the dog node might also load up the general animal node, but also maybe the dog park you used to be at as a kid, that specific dog park, because it reminds you of that. And those connections get stronger the more they are traveled, kind of like paths, right? Like, the more you walk a path, the easier it becomes to traverse. So we tend to pave the paths that we walk the most. And I wanted to ask you, basically, if I, say I have, like, I'm homophobic and I think gay people are very emotional and extra, so my connection between annoying and gay is very well traveled, because whenever I see someone gay, I get annoyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of why it is so hard to overcome? Because, like, those concepts are related, and so I sort of load them at the same time because they're related in my head. So it is very difficult to think of one of them without bringing up the other. I'm sort of prepared to be annoyed.
This is the exact same thing as I was saying a while before. You normally won't perceive. You will predict. And that's something your brain does for everything. If you see a door, you know that door can be opened, although you didn't open it. You just know it will. So, when you see a gay guy,
Yeah.
you will immediately predict this gay guy. And what do you have on your brain to predict? Well, what's most immediate. And the more you think about this, the more, as you say, this path will be, and in neuroscience we call burned. A circuit gets burned into your brain. So this kind of relationships make it so hard. As you said, it is what I don't know how to speak. I'm sorry.
No worries.
This kind of relationships, this kind of circuit that connects two concepts in your brain are exactly, as you said, what makes it so hard to avoid making pre-assumptions. And one of the things that makes it even harder, it is we have this thing called synaptic bushing.
Yeah.
Which is when you sleep, your brain starts cutting connections that doesn't need. And how does the brain decides what it doesn't need? Because they are really weak.
Yeah. So the really little traveled path connections might get cut.
Exactly. And the strongest...
Right, so if today I watched a dog video and then I watched a guitar video, I have a very weak connection between dog and guitar, and my brain just gets rid of that when I sleep, for example. Right? Something like that.
Absolutely. So
interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of why it is so hard to avoid making pre-assumptions, and why that is a really, really, really active cognitive effort.
And the interesting thing is that since we perceive media as real, and media still triggers our memory and our pathways in the exact same way that a real situation does, media can also heavily affect our perception, ideology, and biases. Because if I keep seeing gay characters that are annoying, that pathway is gonna get activated a lot. And I might have some assumptions about gay people.
Stereotypes.
Exactly. Very interesting.
Very interesting. And that's why when people say, come on, it's just fantasy, I kind of say,
I was having a discussion last night with my boyfriend about Game of Thrones and whether or not it is sexist. Now, I don't have a strong opinion. I haven't seen the show, I have only read the books, so maybe the shows delight a little bit more in, what's the word? Abusing women, let's say. Violentar. How do you say that in English? Whatever. Anyway, so but the point was, like, so the world of Game of Thrones is very sexist, right? Like, it is based on medieval Europe, where women had next to no power, and several characters. There's one character, for example, that's trapped, having to marry another character. They're both kids. They're like maybe 13 and 15, and the guy is a fucking dick. Like, the guy is maybe the biggest asshole in the entire show. And she's forced to marry him, right? And in general, female characters have very little power compared to the male ones, particularly direct power. And she struggles a ton to try to get out of it, and just doesn't manage to, because she doesn't have that kind of influence, because she's just a girl. I understand that she eventually does get out of it, though. And so I have a friend who really likes this character because she also faced similar struggles, and so seeing it represented in media, right, a woman suffering because the world doesn't want to give them the power that they should have because they're women, right, was really cathartic for her. But it might be cementing two neural pathways. One, the idea that this is how things are, and two, the idea that this isn't how things shouldn't be because it fucking sucks. So, like, I think at least insofar as what I have described, it's not sexist, because mostly the point is that this sucks, and the world should never ever be like that, because it brings a lot of suffering, right? The girl is empathetic, and the sexism is awful for her. But I do wonder if, like, having a sexist world can reinforce sexist ideas in people because they become more accustomed to the idea that that's just how the world is.
The answer is yes, it can.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing we have, but also, if you don't have any representations of these things happening, when someone tells you this thing happens, you will tell.
Oh yeah, you might say no.
Your memory, and you will say no, it doesn't.
Yeah, that is true. So many people think sexism doesn't exist anymore. Do you have any women in your life? Do you know any woman at all?
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, I have a mother, so I can't be so.
Yeah.
It is.
No, yeah. So maybe that particular story, that particular character, doesn't cement the idea that the world should be like that, but the idea that these things happen and it sucks when it happens. So maybe that one is. But yeah, like for example, in the Soul series, there are barely any women, particularly in the main characters that actually make up the big story of the world. Barely any big name woman, if any. And if there are woman bosses that are not just almost basically male in body but just happen to be called she, or dogs who happen to be female but you couldn't tell. Anyways, there are no women in the Souls lore, basically. None that matter, none that have a lot of agency, except maybe like one per game, like Sister Frieda in 3 and Melania in Elden Ring, because Renala is very passive, etc. And I think this is a very common problem in fantasy, that there are no important women, and I think that can be very harmful. And this book seems to reinforce that assumption that I had, that these things are harmful, because they cement the idea that this is just how things are, or they can, cement that idea.
Yeah, as always, there's no such thing in psychology as an easy answer.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't say. I always fight against censorship, not because I think free speech is important. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't think all opinions should be heard.
Yeah.
I also don't think I am the one who should choose what opinions should be heard, just to be clear.
Yeah.
But what I think is that all things that have been said already can be used as a source of learning and information if used correctly.
Yeah. It reminds me of, what's his name? DJ Pitch Cobbler.
Yeah.
Who often reads direct first-person accounts of, say, a conquistador who actively participated in the conquista of America, right? The colonization of America in the hands of Spain. And the book is incredibly racist, of course, because the person writing it is extremely racist and biased and sexist and etc. Right? But it's useful to have that and to read that. And I think if you read that book with the right perspective, it might not reinforce in your brain the fact that that's normal, but the fact that that's fucked up. Right? I guess it depends on how you experience. If you read it and you think that's fucked up, then the neural pathway that it's reinforcing is between sexism and fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
or racism and fucked up.
If you have a pathway that says, yeah, Latin American people should not be considered humans, you will read this book and think, yeah, this guy is so fucking right, my brother. But
this guy gets it.
This guy gets it, yeah. But if you read a book like that with any kind of good hindsight and any kind of good criticism, any kind of good media literacy, you will probably get what this is an old book about a guy who made atrocities.
Yeah, exactly.
And not anything else. So I do think censorship is bad because people should know what bad looks like.
Yeah. Particularly censorship of things that already exist, I'll agree with that we probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But it does depend though, I do think. But yeah. basically, I agree with you.
So yeah, I think that's what chapter 2. It took
Not yet. We only discussed the the cognitive processes and effects. We're missing the emotional and the behavioral.
yeah.
But I don't have a lot of notes on those though. I think
no, I think have also. I mean, emotion isn't important. Emotion is for pussies. No,
I mean, I just don't think there was anything that challenged or I had any thoughts about. I think it's pretty obvious how media
we
modifies and
empathize.
is affected by our emotions.
And I think most of the emotion part we talked about when talking about media reality thing, because
yeah,
it is a very emotional response.
I do have an interesting note, that is that it is remarkably hard. Like, it says how we have evolved to show our emotions physically with our muscles and expressions and vocal expressions like, oh no, or wow. And it is remarkably hard to actually hide your emotions, right?
Yes.
It is really, really hard to hide your emotions. And yet, the attempt to hide your emotions is sometimes seen as a positive thing socially. For example, if you are fired, the fact that you don't cry, but you leave the room of HR with dignity. You can cry at home, but not there. So the attempt to hide your sadness is seen as positive, even though they can tell you're sad and they can probably tell you're hiding it, you know? Which is interesting.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of how society works. And especially nowadays, ironically, our generation is the one that is suffering this the most, because our generation is full of people that Vittorio Guidano called Dapica.
Which means?
It is a really long concept I'm not going to get into, but it is a way of it is a categorization he makes of how you apply meaning to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And this category, specifically Dapica, it's one interesting one, because it is really common in our generation, which is one focused in making meaning on fulfilling expectations of other people. It is people who build themselves and build meaning around themselves, around other people.
That I do identify with that. I definitely have a people pleasing problem.
Yeah, I don't, but it is very common.
Yeah.
So one of the things common in this kind of people is growing up, and that's really common, especially, for example, in Latin America, in the Gran Colombia, Venezuela, Colombia, etc. Grow up in families where there are good emotions and bad emotions, and the good emotion is to be happy, and being angry and being sad, it's a bad thing to do. And it is a bad thing to do because it is for many reasons, but mostly a lot of families find this accusative of they doing a bad job, which they don't like. A mother doesn't like being told that they are doing a bad job by their sons, by their child. Like
if your son is angry, if the son is angry, the mom feels like she's doing a bad job because it's a bad emotion that they shouldn't be feeling. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. There are a lot of reasons why this could happen, but it is really common.
Yeah.
The good emotion, as every child should be showing, is happiness. Don't be sad. Don't be angry with me.
I definitely do relate to that as a Venezuelan.
So these kind of things help this fulfill expectation, and it is really common. And Guidano talk about these families that mostly generates Dapica, a person that are Dapicos.
Yeah.
Guidano refers to these families as happy families.
Yeah.
Which is really funny to me, because now every time I get a patient and I see their family is too happy maybe, I take note of that.
That's pretty cool. And how as someone who's being brought up under this model of parenting, how would a different model of parenting look like? Just accepting the emotion that the people have and communicating it clearly and not associating it like it's bad that you're angry, it's normal that you're angry, let's figure this out. Is that the idea?
One of the things, at least I like to say is better, is to say you can be angry, you just can't treat me like that.
That's pretty good.
So that's the kind of differentiations you have to make as a parent to not, and obviously being sad doesn't have anything bad. Like, I mean, like if your child is crying because he's sad, I mean, there's nothing bad. If your child is crying because it is angry because you didn't buy that toy, well, that's a different story. And again, that's a thing of saying you can be angry, you can show it, but you have to learn how to show it.
Yeah. And so the problem is not that you're angry, the problem is that you're treating me badly.
Exactly.
Right?
Or that you are making problems for a lot of people, which is also bad. It is not bad to make problems for people per se, but it kinda is.
Yeah, I see. Okay, interesting.
So in that kind of sense, there is this kind of feeling that you need to hide your feelings in most of our generation.
Yeah.
So and that's ironic, I think, because in theory,
because we are also theoretically we're the ones that are most open to psychology and emotions and mental health and so on, right?
Yes. So that's what makes it really weird. I think newer generations will have a harder time now with managing emotions because they are told when they are kids that emotions are good, but if you do not manage well that path of teaching, it can make people think that they can show their emotions in any way they like. Yeah.
Which is also not great.
Also, I mean, the thing that it is better for men to show angriness than to show sadness. It is also part of this kind of dynamics.
Good emotion, bad emotion dichotomy. Interesting. And finally there's the behavioral processes and effects,
which I think it's pretty straightforward, which I like.
Yeah, basically when we see behaviors we can replicate them if there are a bunch of conditions that are true, which are, we've paid attention, we think we can do it, we want to do it, and we do it. And we remember what we saw also. Yeah, there they are. It's we pay attention to the thing, we remember the thing, we are capable of reproducing the behavior, and we actually want to do so.
Yeah. So that's when I watch Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I see the sexism, I remember the sexism, I am capable of the sexism, and I really want to do it.
Yeah. No, media can be good, you see, guys. No.
Yeah. And so I think here the thing about violence, to bring it back to violence in video games, if we see violent behaviors in games like shooting people, we might pay attention to it and remember it and be able of producing it, but we might just not want to beat people up in real life because they're sad and they're not bunches of pixels and data that doesn't actually feel anything. So
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to hit them.
So yeah.
So it doesn't affect your behavior because you don't, unless you already want to do it, in which case the video games don't really pay an effect, right? I think if anything, like regarding video game violence, the behavioral processes and effects might be the least relevant. I think actually how media can modify your ideology and your emotions might be way more likely to affect your motivation for violence than just seeing violence itself, right?
So in this case, maybe the fact that we are using video games to recruit people for the military and to enhance the view of the military, maybe that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And you know, like Call of Duty is making people more violent insofar as it is making people think that the military is okay. But it's not because you're shooting people, it's because you're being cool and badass with your Spec Ops friends. You know, not because you're necessarily shooting people. Even though putting Middle Eastern people in every fucking game as the target that is okay to shoot might also affect your ideology about how you perceive them, right? Mm-hmm. But it won't directly make you be violent against them. It might just change your ideology about them, which will lead to violence. But it's not the violence itself in the game that leads you to do that directly, right? Which is interesting.
It is really interesting.
And something that I also noted is that almost every model for... Like, this is a thing that comes up a lot, but almost every model for behavior says that a huge factor influencing the motivation of whether or not we will actually attempt to perform something is self-efficacy, which is how confident you are that you can actually do it. And I think when I say that I am really confident in myself, what I mean is that I have a really high self-efficacy. Like, there is almost no task you could tell me to do that I think I couldn't do. I'm pretty sure I could do basically anything. Not first try, of course.
I'm pretty sure I could be sexist.
I'm pretty sure I could be a pretty good sexist if I really put my mind to it. Yeah. You know, for example, if you watch a recipe and you can, like, you watch it, you remember, and you can do it, and you want to do, like, whether you want to do it might depend a lot on whether you think you can actually pull it off, and whether you think you can eventually pull it off, even if you fail the first time, right? And this comes up like 4 times in the next chapter, which is really interesting. And I think when people say have a better attitude or you've given up before you've even began, a lot of the times they mean this, like this, the motivational and often the self-efficacy. Like, for example, like a kid who's done badly in exams and now they're convinced they're stupid and they can never get a high grade, they won't want to study because they don't believe that their efforts will actually lead to better results. So they have developed a bad self-efficacy. They don't believe, they're not confident that they can perform studying, correctly. And so I think that's very interesting that that how confident you are on being able to pull something else is a humongous factor on whether or not you are motivated to do it. Particularly because I think basically anyone could do basically anything with enough time.
I don't agree.
With the last part?
No, I mean, no, yeah, I do agree. I do agree.
I don't agree. You particularly can't fucking...
You can't do anything.
You can't be nice to be around to save your fucking life.
I mean, yeah, I have... Because I have some background in educational psychology, I have studied motivational models. And yeah, they basically also the same. One really important thing about... trying to do something, being motivated to reach a goal. I could hand you a paper that explains a lot of models. It's really interesting and really short. And
very interesting. It wouldn't be helpful to me though. I don't struggle with motivation.
No. It is not helpful. Don't do.
I see. It's interesting.
For people who struggle with motivation, learning about motivation, it is usually not that helpful for some reason. So
I see.
Most of the models of motivation always put a wall. They can say a lot of things about the initial motivation, intrinsic, extrinsic, and all of those stuff, but there is always the wall of, do you think you can reach that goal? And that's kind of always. So always remember, you cannot reach that goal. Thank you.
You can reach that goal.
No, you cannot.
like, I genuinely would be shocked if anyone is actually incapable of anything. Mostly, of course, but like, unless you're actually physically incapable of it, which is really hard to be, you can probably do it with enough effort and time. Just give it a try and stick with it.
I mean, I do think there's a point where some goals do not depend on you. Like,
yeah, I guess
I
so.
want to win the lottery. It's not exactly.
Yeah, okay, sure. But, you know, I think I'm guessing of goals where your skill matters.
Yeah, if
goals that are controlled by you, as in, I want to get better at this. I want to do this better.
Instead of thinking if you can or you can't because of your skill, always think if you can or you can't in the term of how much of this goal you control. And then, if you see you control 20%, but you think it is worth it to take that 20% chance, go ahead. If you have as much chance on this as winning the lottery, not because of your skill, but because of everything else, then maybe reconsider.
And a final note on how media affects behavior is how, for example, the Me Too movement changed the behavior of people. For example, making sexual jokes way less common in the workplace, because, you know, now you see how this can affect people and be perceived as harassment. You know, obviously not to say that the people who did a lot of the stuff in Me Too were just joking. But the point is that through being aware that sexual harassment in the workplace is a problem, you might realize the other side of how it might feel to receive a sexual joke from a superior, right? Even if you didn't intend for it to be harassment, which in some cases I'm sure is true. Anyways, and that does modify your behavior because it gives you empathy for a group that you haven't seen before, and it also makes people ostracize you if you don't change your behavior. And that reminded me of how, like, in humanity, culture is a huge way we have of evolving things and policing things, right? Like, way before not always way before, but often before law makes something illegal, social ostracization, that's not the word, social, I guess, rejection makes things unfeasible or distasteful, and that successfully limits them a lot way before the law actually gets to the thing, right? Very interestingly.
Yes.
And it just made me think that, like, cancel culture is culture. A ton of the point of culture is defining what is allowed and what is not allowed. Like, the fact that theft is distasteful is sort of part of cancel culture, insofar as you probably shouldn't steal from people. I mean, you're gonna get cancelled if you kill someone, but you're also gonna get rejected if you are sexist in certain circles. And that's the point, to disallow that behavior through culture. That is part of the point of culture.
Yes. I mean, cancel culture is, I won't say nothing new, because it is new. Cancel culture is the fact that people can get massively criticized, which didn't happen before.
Yeah, cancel culture as in hate mobs chasing someone from infinite distance away and just making them feel hated and giving a lot of hate, I don't think is that useful. And I don't think has always existed necessarily in the way that it exists now. I meant, like, cancel culture in the way about using culture to police behavior.
Yeah, and that's the other difference I want to... It is different to reject behavior as to reject a person.
Yeah, that is true.
Normally, you reject a person when you see there's... how do you call it? Repetitive behavior from them that is rejectable. Yeah,
and they are aware of it and they make no effort to change it and don't apologize, you know?
Yes. No, I won't say cancel culture is bad or good. No, but I will say they should cancel you, Luz, for what you told me before starting this video.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyways.
No, I'm sorry. Anyways.
In summary, that's chapter 3.
In summary,
sorry,
that's
chapter 2.
In summary.
Yeah.
I think it would have been shorter to just read the whole chapter out loud.
Yeah, probably. And we'll have to get to chapter 3 next time. So I'm sorry for lying in the introduction.
Yeah, next time, next week, I guess, unless we decide to stop doing this.
Yeah, we can do another one sooner. I don't mind.
All right. Well then, thank you for watching, although you didn't. And
yeah, if you made it this far, please leave a fucking comment. I don't think anyone's ever gonna watch this.
I don't think anyone's ever gonna watch this either.
No,
I don't know.
Not the point, though.
Go read a book and keep learning.
Yeah, go. What was it? Read a fucking book.
Read a fucking
Bye-bye.
book. REFB. Bye bye.
Ay, perdón, ¿verdad que...?